Come on, Spanky. Okay. Yep. Come on. You're good to go, Spankies. And good morning. Get up here so I can see if anybody pops in. Oh, I forgot to send Ramen an invite. Ramen and Dar. And of course, Spanky wants outside, so give me just a moment so I can let him out. And he's not going to want out for long because it is colder than a Wells digger butt out there. Okay, invites are sent. Spanky's got this innate ability, shall we say. This morning, just as an example, this morning I sat down. Well, the wife sat down. I made breakfast, poached eggs on toast with some bacon. Whew. And of course, the wife's breakfast got ready first, so I made up her breakfast, handed it to her. Just as she sits down, Spanky goes running to the door wanting outside. Well, then I make up my breakfast. Put my eggs in the water, get the water boiling again. Get my eggs in the water. I've already got my toast cut up and bacon cut up and sitting in the bowl. And as soon as my eggs got done, a minute or a couple minutes later, my eggs get done. I put them in the bowl and I go sit down. I'm standing here at the door watching him because when he wants to come in, he's going to be colder. But he, as soon as I sit down, he starts barking and scratching at the door that he wants in. All right. Well, just now before I started the stream, I went and got a drink of water, piece of buttered bread with hot pepper jelly on it, scarfed that down real quick, and sat down on the couch. And just as I started talking, he decided he wanted to go outside. And he is taking his sweet time, so I'm shutting this door because I don't need all this cold air coming in. I got the furnace turned on. It got down to 33 degrees last night. If I'd known it was going to drop, it wasn't supposed to get down to about 38. But instead, it got down to 33. And we ended up, fortunately, it didn't get any lower, so I didn't have to worry about my pipes freezing. But that's a little too close. Now, tonight's supposed to get down into the low 20s. So that means I'll be going out and turning on the water lines before I go to bed. And the outside water pipe so that it don't freeze. Then when I get up tomorrow morning at 4, I'll go and turn the water off because we'll be running enough water in the house until 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock that, showers and toilets and such that I'm not going to worry about my pipes freezing outside. But anyway, so let's start off with this judge. Judge John McConnell. Hey, morning, Joshua. Yeah, but your pipes inside that trailer of yours can freeze, though. Did you see those pictures coming out of Detroit yesterday? I mean, this is one of the few times I feel sorry for Detroit. Hey, morning, Digi. There were cars parked on the street that were And, of course, I sit back down, and now he's at the door wanting in. There are cars parked on the street, and a main water line broke somewhere. Literally flooded the street and the houses alongside that street. Oh, no, he's still walking at the fence line. See, I can't see what he's doing until I open the door because I got the door closed. And the water froze. Cars are frozen into one huge block of ice. The whole road is frozen solid up to over the hoods of some of these cars. I mean, calling into work. And sorry, boss, but I can't make it in today. My car's frozen. No, you don't understand. It's frozen like in an ice cube. Hey, morning, Ramen. Oh, I'm not maligning that mutt. No, sir, you don't understand. My car's frozen like inside of an ice cube. Yes, sir, my street's flooded. Yes, sir, the street's flooded to the top of my car, and it's frozen solid. No, sir, you don't understand, sir. There's 10 cars out in front of my house parked on both sides of the streets, and it's one huge ice cube. So I'm not going to be able to make it into work today. Unbelievable. Just absolutely unbelievable. Let's see here. And the problem is it just happened that I saw a lawyer talking about a situation like this. The other day, and here we go. They actually do have a picture of it here. Where's that picture of that street? Let me get over here. That's the video. So I'll open this video. And look at that. That is one huge block of ice. If y'all thought I was exaggerating, this guy thought he was going to be smart and lift his windshield wiper so they wouldn't freeze to his car. He didn't think anything about the car being frozen to the road or to the neighbor's car. The neighbor up the street, the neighbor down the street, the neighbor across the street, the neighbor kitty corner from the street. Spanky, where'd you go? Oh, damn it, my cat went outside. Come on, Smokey. I'm not going to go outside and sit down and watch you walk along the fence. Silly cat. Yes. Now, did you? Smokey, he got outside once. And it took us 2 days before he finally came back. When we first got him as a kitten, where we lived, he could be inside or outside. Okay, Spanky. He could be inside or outside as he wanted, and which we did. We'd let him roam the inside outside as he wanted to go. He had no problems. There'd be mornings I'd come home from work or leave from work, and he'd be on top of the house. And other than the apartment complex across the street from us, there was no traffic. Well, then we moved, and plus we had a much larger backyard and everything. He could get out there and run around and have all the fun he wanted to have. And, we had trees he could climb. Like I said, he'd climb trees and jump over to the top of the house, and be sitting on the roof of the house in the mornings or at night or when I got home from work. Well, then we moved in closer to town. Like there's businesses on two sides of me, and I got some young punks that moved in down the road from us that like to run their four wheelers up and down the road at breakneck speed, and their dirt bike. And he's 15 years old now. I don't think he doesn't move quite as fast as he used to. So we've made him strictly an indoor. Well, not strictly an indoor cat. We let him outside, but only under close supervision. Hey, invent teleporters, get back. Yeah. So anyway, I got both animals. One sitting on the couch staring at me. The one sitting on a footstool staring at me. Neither one of them are happy. But I'm not going to go chase them around down outside right now. So, okay, back over here to Judge McConnell. Now, this here's just, I brought this first article just to show the absolute bias of the media. The title of this article here, and this is Newsweek. This is Newsweek. Judge John McConnell Jr. faces impeachment for obstructing Trump. The judge who said that President Donald Trump's administration had ignored his court order to restart the flow of federal funds has had articles of impeachment drafted against him. The U.S. District Judge McConnell told the White House that it must abide by the preliminary injunction to halt its funding freeze. Well, I've never known the White House to actually do anything. The last time I looked at, the White House was strictly a building. The White House doesn't do anything. The people inside the White House do. So when reporters say, or say that so-and-so ordered the White House, or the White House said today, the White House can't be ordered to do anything. And the White House doesn't have a larynx, a tongue, a lips, or any other means for it to communicate, because it's just it's a 200 and some odd year old building. Representative Andrew Klein, a Republican, has announced on X that he was drafting articles of impeachment accusing the judge of being a partisan activist. The PIO for U.S. District Court for Judge. Okay, enough of this. All right. But, this article, why does this matter? Because judges are partisan activists. Federal judges who are appointed for life can only be impeached if they're accused of treason, bribery, or other crimes of other high crimes and misdemeanors. If McConnell is successfully impeached and convicted by the Senate, it will set a precedent that blocking the president's actions in court is akin to treason. And then that, without hitting continue to read, that's as far as most people are going to go when they read this article. Okay, by Newsweek. But you see, this Sophie Clark, she's leaving some important facts out. Judge who stopped Trump's spending freeze lands in boiling water over conflict of interest. Impeachment talk in air. A conservative legal group is accusing a federal judge of having a conflict of interest in ruling against Donald Trump's freeze on federal grants. America First Legal, a group with a track record of taking on major causes, maintains Judge John McConnell, Chief Judge of the U.S. District Court in Rhode Island, as a beneficiary of the federal spending he ruled in favor of. Oh, wow. So Sophie Clark, it's not ruling against the president that's akin to treason, as you say. It's not recusing yourself when you have a financial interest in your ruling. He never should have made that ruling in the first place. He should have recused himself, Sophie. Oh yeah, the cold would have maybe not to come inside, but at least seek shelter somewhere. Yeah, we're only supposed to get up to 45 degrees today. So I got my whole thermos ticking along at I got it set at 70 degrees right now. And later on I'll drop it back down to about 68, but since I'm just sitting here, I want I want a little bit warmer. Wow, you got oh yeah, your inside birds. Very happy birds nearly always. Yep. I had a Quaker parrot when I was a kid. Named him Johnny Lightning. Geez, I wonder where I got that name from. So, but anyway, Sophie, why don't you understand that there's a difference here between opposing and making a ruling based on the law, making a ruling based on your own financial interest. On January 31st, McConnell used an order blocking Trump move that halted already approved federal grants, as the Hill reported. Democrats had savagely attacked Trump's decision, and McConnell's order came after a court challenge by Democratic attorneys from generals from 22 states and the District of Columbia. McConnell had served on the board of directors from a nonprofit group Crossroads, Rhode Island, that has received more than $128 million. I almost said billion there. $128 million in federal funding over the past 18 years. That, I mean, when Judge McConnell ruled against the Trump administration and required federal taxpayers to continue funding the state of Rhode Island, it seems he also continued funding for his pet nonprofit, Crossroads Rhode Island, the group charged. Well, if they're getting money, if Trump said no, you can't have, as a result of Trump's freeze, they weren't getting any money, and then the judge said, yes, you need to give us money, then they got money, then there's no apparent to it. McConnell is an unpaid member of the board. But he is still a member of the board. He should have recused himself because he is fine. He and his groups that he has a personal interest in, a personal stake in, were directly tied to his rulings. If he'd upheld Trump's rulings, then he would have ruled against his own financial interest. And I would have respected that, like that judge the other day, that Democratic judge appointed by Obama. I can't remember her name real quick off the top of my head, but I made a comment on it on X, that the mere fact that okay, here it is. What's the article? Article's loading. Come on, please. Thank you much. Here we go. U.S. District Judge Tanya Chutkan denied to grant the plaintiff's request to issue a temporary restraining order, citing what she said was their failure to demonstrate evidence of irreparable harm caused by Doge's access. She's an Obama appointee. The fact that she ruled against the party that got her in office tells me a couple of different things. One, the sad state of the Democrats, these Democrats' positions. Two, that she, at least in this case, put the law over politics and her own personal feelings or her party allegiance. Now, I am making some assumptions here. Okay. I'm not going to deny that. I am making some assumptions. But sometimes these assumptions that are made are based on history. Josh, did you see that picture of Michelle that was going around a week or so ago. Uh, I tell you, it is so scary anymore that you cannot tell what has been and has not been photoshopped or CGI'd or is AI induced, AI created. It used to be if you could see it on video, if you could see a video recording of it, you were 99.9% sure that it was 100% true. If you saw an audio, if you heard an audio, you can't see audio recordings unless you're one of those special people. If you heard an audio recording of something going on, you had a 75% chance that what you heard was true. But now it's 50-50 regardless. At best, it's 50-50. And so it's just sad the way that it. I mean, I love seeing technology make leaps and bounds like this, but the way it gets abused is absolutely amazing. Oh, back to I know I skipped here, and I'm going to skip back. Back what I was talking about back in the Detroit. Uh, a court had ruled, okay, something similar had happened where a car got a water pipe had broken and coated a car with ice, and the owners couldn't get the car out, and it caused some damage to the vehicle. The car owner sued the city for the repairs. The city, of course, fought it, saying that it was an act of nature, yada, yada, yada. Court ruled yes, the fact that it froze was an act of nature. However, the fact that it was coated in water by a burst water line was the fault of the city for improper maintenance. Therefore, the city was responsible for the damage to the individual's car. Now, if that ruling holds up in this Detroit, and all those cars frozen and the damage caused, I hope Detroit has one hell of an insurance policy to cover all that damage to these vehicles. Because it's just unbelievable the amount of damage that's been caused. So I'll close that tab. Come on, close, you stupid thing. Where am I? There I am. More power, more problems. Yep. So get back over here to the, yeah. But so back to the judge, back to where I was, get back on track here. Should this judge be impeached? Should Judge McConnell be impeached? And removed from the bench? I'm going to say yes, because he should have recused himself. He sat on the board of an organization that receives money that had been frozen and he had directed to be unfrozen. Therefore, he had a personal stake in it. While he was not personally getting finances, hopefully, as an unpaid board member, it was still his pet project to see that money go through. And I mean, we don't know if he has any relatives or close friends or anybody sitting that are paid members of Crossroads, Rhode Island. But much like Judge Meacham there in New York, that had his daughter making millions of dollars off his daughter making millions of dollars off of the Trump trial, which was a goat rope to begin with. I'm a firm believer that Meacham should be removed from bench, and I don't understand why the appeals courts haven't already why this hasn't already been appealed before the appeals courts. I simply don't understand it. I mean, even the 34 convictions should be thrown out on just on the face of the way that they did it. Non-unanimous votes, leading to convictions. That's nonsense. But since we're talking about Doge anyway here today, the Department of Education has terminated 18 grants for $226 million to the comprehensive centers, which provide consulting services with a large-scale focus on DEI. One center application stated, embedding DEI reviews across all deliverables and materials ensures it is not a one-off task-specific activity. So their goal, their idea was everything had to have DEI in it. It's like the CRT out of Georgia. Remember the gentleman that sold CRT to the Georgia schools after CRT, after the state of Georgia ruled or made policy that CRT was not to be taught. So all they did is went in and changed the name and rewrote a little bit of the material to where it wasn't so easily identified as CRT, and then pushed it and sold it to the schools anyway. Then the guy got on the internet and bragged about it. I'm hoping like hell that he got his. But anyway, the 2019 study, which itself cost $8 million, was not able to measure the causal impact of the center's work, or the casual impact of the center's work. Then here's some examples of the CRT, of the DEI content from the center.
The white gaze, or the white man's gaze, the white man sitting on her shoulder, telling her not.
Hey, party people, let's get ready to do this activity. Everyone, humans, y'all.
Okay, so
asking if staff members could move away from the binary. Asking if staff members could move away from the binary and not just say things like, let's split into two teams, girls versus boys. Why not instead use non-heteronormative language like, hey, party people, let's get ready to do this activity.
I'm sitting here looking at these 9 people sitting here. Only one's a male. One brown skin, apparently brown skin, and the other 7 are all white women. As Monkey says, white women are going to destroy this country.
Everyone, humans, y'all, friends, family, however you want to do it.
And the intersections of that in terms of my gender, my race, and my sexual orientation as a young person developing in my sexuality.
Oh, I'm sorry. There's 2 brown women. I'm assuming that's a woman.
There was a lot of intentionality, I think, in certain spaces in my professional career where we thought about sexuality as a developmental reality And as a language arts teacher and reading literature, what type of preparation am I preparing myself for to be responsive to where my students are at developmentally, as well as in terms of their growing identities? And if pushback arrives, and that's probably within the equity context, an indication that you're moving towards shifting practices and policies that are undoing the status quo.
Oh, they don't have the one guy. Oh, maybe he's on the next video.
The white gaze.
Oh,
the white
yeah.
man's gaze.
This guy's outrageous. Centering family and community wisdom. Now, I would say this guy is white. By looking at him, he's white. White passing. Caucasian passing, shall we say.
The white gaze, or the white man's gaze, the white man sitting on her shoulder, telling her not to write those things. We are, I'll just be bold and claim, undeniably sitting in systems that are meant to assimilate us. The whole founding of formal education in these territories.
He's talking about, did you catch what he said there? These are systems to assimilate us. If you're you're a white passing dude. What are you talking about us? You got a full beard. What? Who are you that you think that, you're this us that's being assimilated into that white group?
Territories was meant to erase indigeneity, scrubbed clean to participate in a settler society. Why bring that up now? Well, we still live in a settler colonial reality. Flick that white man off your shoulder. And it's not about individual white people, individual white men. It's about the settler colonial reality and the settler patriarchy that pushes us to move and behave in certain ways. That what if that wasn't there? Because I realized once you flick the settler gaze, the person holding that settler gaze off your shoulder, who takes the place? My ancestors took the place. The white gaze, or
what? Come all the way back, Kate.
my ancestors took the place.
Who are your ancestors that took the place of the quote unquote white man? You're white, what are you, another Pocahontas? You got 1/100th American Indian in you somewhere, hidden underneath those chubby cheeks. You got high cheekbones. I don't understand here. You're a bit Looney Tunes there.
Friends, family, however you want to do it. Asking if.
And the intersections of that in terms of my gender, my race, and my sexual orientation as a young person developing in my sexuality.
Okay, shut that off. All right. So where, thank goodness there
was a lot of intentionality, I think,
to write those things.
In certain.
Thank goodness they canceled this $226 million to comprehensive centers. There was another lady this morning complaining that her company is sitting ready to go out of business. Their business is going to go out, close down, shutter up the doors, everybody without a job within the next 60 days. If they don't get new contracts with the government, because all their contracts with the government have been canceled. They had no contracts to listening to her talk, or 90% of their contracts were federal contracts. And they did, and it was a DEI/CRT/wokeism company. how they went around teaching and watching out for white men misbehaving and mistreating minorities and women. But all their contracts were federal government, 90% of them at least, federal government from the way she talked. And that she was reaching out, and what she's saying, she's reaching out to other companies, and they're all in hiring freezes. And I'm sitting there going, yes, that's just the way it should be. How I find it unbelievable that these companies that produce nothing. You ask they've got nothing that's being manufactured except grief and heartache, racism, sexism, and distrust. That's their end product. They divide people among sex and among gender and racial lines. They're absolutely angry that, one woman, I went to college for 8 years, taking all these classes, gender studies, racial studies, this study, that study. She listed off a dozen or so classes she took to become an expert in my field, to help those who are held down by the white man. Quote, I'm paraphrasing there. And now she may be out of a job in 60 days and not have income and not be able to get a job in her career because, well, I mean, people are striking or boycotting Coca-Cola because Coca-Cola, they're buy-ins at Costco because Costco is keeping DEI, whereas other companies have dropped DEI. Well, Coca-Cola went in and sold out their own the illegals working for them. That's what it was. That's why people are boycotting Coke. Now, I drink Dr. Pepper, which is it's not a Coke product, but Coke handles the sales of it. At least last I heard, it's still an independent company out of Texas. But Coca-Cola handles the distribution. So Coke gets a little bit of my money. I just don't like the taste of most Coke products. All these people, though, they're finding themselves out of jobs. These companies find themselves scrambling to find a contract somewhere, find somebody that's still willing to push DEI, still willing to push CRT, still willing to push division amongst their employees. That was one of my biggest complaints every year when I had to go through EEOC training in the Air Force. Even though I will admit, like I've said before, my last EEOC training, the videos they had actually showed black women and white women being racist and sexist. So they actually opened up their eyes a little bit. And that was I want to say that was in 97. So at least then, for that one instance, they opened up their eyes a little bit. But it was starting to affect people on the flight line. I mean, guys, we humped wrenches in aircraft all day long together. And then one day I'm standing there in line to check out tools. And I heard one of the black guys make a comment, watch, we'll get all these whites out of here before they'll come give us our tools. And I'll call you back later. And so, I mean, it was starting to affect the people on the flight line, actually cause, comments like that to be, that guy to make that comment out in open. So who knows how long he thought it. But I mean, we just all stood there in line waiting to check out our toolboxes in the morning, our toolboxes and our tech data. The hell, there are times I've been glad to be the last one to get my tech data and my tools before heading out to the line. There are times I wanted to be the first one to grab my stuff to get out there, depending on what was going on, how bad we were broke. And the days I wanted to be the last ones, the days I was assigned to the launch truck, because I didn't want to get on that truck any earlier, and I absolutely had to. Spend 4 hours out of my day riding around inside of a box truck with a bread van, a truck that looks like a bread truck that had no air conditioning in it. Oh, Fago. I've got one place in town that sells Fago, and I don't get to shop there much anymore because they're closed when I drive by it usually. Only one place does Fago. Code Red's not bad. It's not my favorite though. I remember when when Mountain Dew had all that was the caffeine drink of choice. If you couldn't get coffee, you could keep Mountain Dew around. Then they came out with Jolt Cola. And we kept Jolt all over the place on the flight line. If we couldn't get coffee, we got Jolt. So what's this here? Now, another one of the nonprofits that, where'd it go? Oh, did I close that tab? Oh, I sure did. Oh, that irritates me. I got to find Stacy, the nonprofit that Stacy Abrams has there in Georgia for voting. She got, they got funneled, the Biden administration through the education department, funneled them $200 million. I want to say it was more than $200 million, but okay. And let me throw Doge in there just in case, see if that helps bring it. Here we go. And Doge digs up a $2 billion set aside for Stacey Abrams linked group. The Biden administration designated $2 billion $2 billion for a climate group that is linked to former Georgia Democrat gubernatorial candidate Stacey Abrams. The EPA and Department of Government Efficiency, Doge officials, discovered that funds in what EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin called an extremely concerning revelation. Power Forward was given a grant, which was just one of 8 greenhouse gas reduction fund grants that the EPA doled out in April of 2024. And that altogether totaled $20 billion. When we learned what the Biden did, parked $20 billion outside the agency, we suspected some organizations were created out thin air just to take advantage of that. Then here's the tweet that, or X that Zeldin sent out. Stacey Abrams' Power Forward Communities received $2 billion to be a pass-through entity for Biden's EPA's $20 billion gold bar scheme. They reported just $100 in total revenue after their founding in 2023. Now, I haven't found the video yet. Supposedly, there's a video out there of some. I want to say they may have been EPA people, but they may have also been Treasury, talking about throwing gold bars off the Titanic. And what they're talking about is like this $20 billion being designated out to where liberal groups had it, and before the Trump administration came in. Power Forward Communities was established in October of 2023 as a coalition of groups led by Rewiring America, a left-wing group that advocates for electrification of policies and a transition away from fossil fuel independence. Abrams, who serves as a Rewiring Senior Counsel, said at the time she was thrilled to be part of the Power Forward Communities coalition. But this coalition only got $100 until Biden dumps in $2 billion into it. Considering what these people did to Trump, remember, Trump's conviction was over mislabeling some money that he gave to a porn star to shut up to, as an NDA. And they broke that into 34 felony convictions. Somehow or another, they managed to do that. How many felony convictions should be handed out for giving Stacey Abrams, a group Stacey Abrams is tied with, $2 billion? All this money that we're finding that the Biden administration dumped on liberal groups with no real place for it to go, or the Treasury Department sending out $44.7 billion in checks with nothing on there to say where the checks are supposed to be go or how those checks are supposed to be spent. How many people should be brought up on charges for that? But see, Stacy's also got some other problems. Another nonprofit group funded by Stacey Abrams agrees to a historic fine over illegal election spending on her failed bid for governor. The record $300,000 fine was for spending related to Abrams' first failed gubernatorial run in 2018. During the campaign, the New Georgia Project and affiliated New Georgia Project Action Fund admittedly raised and spent millions of dollars on Abrams' behalf. Under the Peach State laws, the group should have filed as independent committee and report both its fundraising and spending. And some, however, without such registration, the group failed to disclose some $4.6 million in contributions and $3.2 million in expenditures during the 2018 election cycle. Now, wasn't Trump's conviction over like $150,000? So 4.2 million, 3.2 million. I mean, come on, let's lower the 3.2 million in expenditures. That should be 340 felony convictions. If the Justice Department was operating fairly. So, and I still can't believe that she, remember, she was on one of the non-canonical Star Trek episodes as the world president. She couldn't be a governor of the state of Georgia, so she decided to be world president on a Star Trek show. All the sugar twice. I'll tell you, I didn't care about sugar. I just wanted the caffeine in those sodas back in the day. For years, all I cared about, I bought Jolt Cola by the case when it came out. Up until then, we bought Mountain Dew by the case. Mountain Dew. Give me the Doober, because it's got the caffeine count. I never would have thought that my last 2.5 years in the Air Force would cause me, like I said, I retired in 98. So 27 years later, to be able to relate to some of the stuff going on in national politics. But here we go. I'm going to say it's 1997. It may have been late 96, but 1997. The Air Force stopped up until then, whenever you went TDY on temporary duty assignment, you would go over to finance office, and they'd already had figured up what your spending was going to be. How much you were authorized to spend on your hotel room and groceries. And they would give you 80% of that. Okay. They'd give you 80% of what your allocation would be for to pay for your hotel bill and for eating. Because they determine whether or not you were to have chow hall access, whether or not you were staying on base or off base. If you were staying off base, what hotel were you staying at? What was the government rate for that hotel? All kinds of things. Finance had that all figured out. So you went over with your orders and handed them a copy of your orders with your paperwork that you filled out requesting the advanced TDY pay, and they'd give it to you in cash, and there you go. Well, then they turn around and instead of doing that, what they did is they gave everybody an American Express card from an E1 just out tech school to the general. Everybody was issued an American Express card. And that was to pay for, you'd be told how much you were allowed to charge on that card. Then when you came back from your TDY, you went over and filed your travel voucher. They pay you the money. Then you use that money to pay off your American Express card. Well, my job, they're sitting up in the orderly room because I was no longer fit to work on the flight line. Remember, I was given a choice: take a medical discharge at 17 years, 18 years time in service, or take this job in the orderly room, handling the squadron's finances. So I took the job in the orderly room because I wanted my full retirement. I didn't want a medical. And part of my job every month, I would get a copy in of everybody's American Express bill in the squadron. And I would go through and I would verify every single charge. And any charges that were questionable, I took in and gave to the executive officer and the first sergeant. Because my sole job was to review, and I didn't have and anything that was funny looking to highlight and turn over to them for them to make final disposition of. So obviously, any charges, especially out in Las Vegas, to Hard Rock Cafe, those automatically got put on the list to be reviewed by the first sergeant and the executive officer to see if they needed to be handed over to the squadron commander to deal with. But, then of course there would be always that idiot, and usually some young airman or some young lieutenant that went out and bought a new set of tires for his car. Or used it to pay a tow bill. Their car broke down, they had to have it towed. So they broke out that government-issued American Express card to do that. The reason why I'm talking about that, because this up on the screen now, the U.S. government has approximately 4.6 million active credit cards and accounts, which processed approximately 90 million unique transactions for approximately $40 billion in fiscal year 2024. Remember, fiscal year 2024 ran from October of 2023 to October 1st, 2023 to September 30th of 2024. Doge is working with agencies to simplify the program and reduce admin costs. We'll report back in 1 week. Now, supposedly, there are more credit cards out there and accounts than there are government employees. I think that's the next one down. No. But evidently, there's a couple 100,000 extra accounts out there that there's no, who this belonged to, because we don't have that many employees. So they're going to be researching that. And it may be something simple like a squadron commander or a wing commander who has 2 accounts. One that he uses for base and one he uses for personal travel, for government travel. I'm not talking personal as in he's taking a week's vacation. I'm talking about that's for when he's going TDY or whatever. So let's see here. Okay. Here is a larger picture of that. And you'll see down here, if you come down to the Department of Defense, 1.12802 E for error plus 10. So there's 10 more digits that belongs there that won't fit. So that is, that is a crap ton of money. And that's out of 27,242,256 transactions for 2,405,161 individual accounts. And I'm just picking on the Department of Defense because that's the organization I worked for. Now, before I left the service, we resolved our problems of having people charging new tires or buying a new lawnmower. Yes, we had somebody bought a new lawnmower with their American Express card, government issued American Express. We resolved that problem by our TDY. We had a person in the unit that was responsible for all the TDYs. And he had a folder for every person in the unit, all of us enlisted swine. And he gathered up all of our American Express cards and put them inside our individual folders. And when you went to go TDY, you went up there and got your American Express card from him. You signed for it. He gave it to you. When you got back from the TDY, he took it back and he signed for it, showing that it had been returned. And that stopped the fraudulent charges. Paul, we don't run on nicotine as much as we used to. America has given up on one of the Ean brothers. And I'm talking about a former consumer of both of the Eans, caffeine and nicotine. Them N boys got me through a lot of long weekends, lots of long hours. Now, I understand that what worked for our unit, one unit of 190 some odd people, doesn't work everywhere. I understand that. But the basic things should still be there where every unit, all right, I don't care if you work for the AID or the Social Security Administration, any one of the units in between, they're on that list. There should be somebody responsible for reviewing charges made by the individuals in that unit. All right. And again, I also understand, let's look at, the Department of Ags has probably got, they've got 125,575 people, but that's divided up amongst 50 states. So you break it down to the smallest organization within each state of, you know, you've got 20 people in this area, you got 30 people in this area, you got 40 people over that area, and they all report to the people in the state capital, an office out of the state capital. Okay, fine. Then the head person in each one of them sub areas, smaller areas, is responsible and signing off on all the credit card charges and reporting back up to the person at the state capitol, who then reports back to Washington, D.C.'s main office. I mean, every office has got a bean counter in it. And yes, I understand. I was a bean counter when there at the end. And I made a damned good one too. I'll be honest. I was damned good. I was recognized by the Wing King himself as being one of the best he'd ever seen. But that's because I took my job, my responsibilities serious there. I wasn't stupid about it, but I didn't cover anybody's ass either, because that was my own ass I'd be putting out there on that line instead. And the commander and I already had that agreement made up that neither one of us is going to be sharing jail cells for the other. But there is no excuse for this kind of nonsense to be going on. There is absolutely no excuse other than the lack of supervision, the lack of um, doing the jobs that they've been hired to do at these individual organizations correctly. And yes, I'm going to say it. I'm going to honestly, I'm going to put it out there. People need to be fired. People need to be arrested and charged. And, and I mean that wholeheartedly. The people who did not properly review and these credit card charges being put on the government credit cards, because there's always going to be somebody that's in charge of them. And if they didn't do their job right, hey, Spittle, good morning to you. Now, you can skip the first 10 minutes or so because that's just me yelling at my dog and cat. But if this is think about it, if this was a private company that allowed this to happen in that company would be firing people and having them arrested for embezzlement. Misuse of funds. In this case, be misuse of public funds. And I do believe that is actually a crime. Misuse of public money crime. Okay, misappropriation of public money. All right, is equivalent to embezzlement and can result in prison fines and sentences. It's also a federal crime. California, of course, is considered a nonviolent crime. So, yeah, 18 U.S. Code 641. There we go. get a few hundred people convicted of this and such, government employees, and take it as far up the food chain as possible. Well, I didn't spend that money. No, but you were responsible for reporting it. You were responsible for identifying that misuse of public monies. But that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I want to see it happen, but it's not. These people will not end up in jail. They will not end up even being arrested or charged. At worst, they'll get fired. At worst. But even if they're just put on a ankle bracelet and put on house arrest for 2 years, that's perfectly fine with me. But the nice big house they had better have been sold to help pay their fines. So they're living in a much smaller, they've gone from that 6-bedroom, 5-bath house with the foyer and the built-in swimming pool and the greenhouse with all their orchids in it to a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,200 square foot home. I mean, that's what I want to see. That's what I want to see, because these people abused our money. They stole, misused our cash. It doesn't matter that they're federal employees. That just makes it worse. If your son, your daughter, if you gave your son or daughter $1,000 that they needed, and you told them this was to pay your rent, this was to pay your tuition, this is to buy your school books, and you found out that they didn't use that $1,000 for that, but they went out partying with it, you'd be pretty damn mad about it, and you'd be doing something about it. You'd be doing something anywhere from not giving them, not giving them any more money, if it's for tuition, then they had to drop those classes. If it's for school books, they had to find another way of getting their books. But federal employees, we do nothing about it. Let's charge for a few thousand. Yeah, I mean, I really want to see. I want to see people, and I don't care if it does go all the way up to the head of the to a cabinet level member. Stacey Abrams should be being arrested and charged with felonies. Instead of just paying a $300,000 fine. I mean, $300,000 isn't chump change. But I'm sure she had a way of getting that. But I'd rather see her go up on charges. And again, if they were willing to take they were willing to go after Trump for doing what had been done by damn near every other politician up until that point. Obama did it. Clinton's did it. Both Clintons. Probably the Bushes. probably even Reagan. And they all paid fines for it. And then they went after Trump for felony convictions. There should be no such thing as a fine anymore for any of these. Again, I don't care, Republican or Democrat. Y'all know me well enough by now to know I call myself a Republican, but that's only so I can vote in the primaries. Because Florida, fortunately, is a closed primary state, which is as it should be. All right. Yeah, we're out of that. So let me close that tab, that one. I can close that one. Come on, Stacy, get your face off my screen. Close that. Okay. CNN is really upset here. Oh my God, they're big time mad. Why are they big time mad? IRS is expected to fire about 6,000 workers in the middle of tax season. Well, remember, they just hired, what was it, 8,700? The Internal Revenue Service is expected to fire 6,000 workers today. Government workers who will lose their jobs are more recently hired and therefore have probationary status, making them easier to cut loose. The IRS workers fired are described as largely auditors and support workers involved in compliance work, many of whom were hired there in the last months of the Biden administration. Now remember, Biden said he was hiring these people to go after the millionaires and billionaires. Remember that? And that, the people that made over $500,000 a year. And then the truth come out that they were going to come out there to audit people at your level and my level. Us po folk. To make certain that if you got a Venmo Cash App for $600, that you reported it. If you got a payout from PayPal or from YouTube for a couple $100, that you reported that and paid all your taxes on that couple $100 that you got from the Creators Fund. That's what these people were going to be going after. They weren't going to go after the millionaires and billionaires, because then they'd be going after the Democrats' biggest funders, the people who donate to them. Oh, I'll take you up on that, Paul. But we don't have no gators up here in this part of Florida. Well, yeah, we do have gators up here in this part of Florida. What am I thinking about? There's one of the golf courses has got a pond on the 16th hole, I think. It's got a big fence around it. And it tells you if your ball goes past that fence, you'd lose a stroke. Drop a fresh ball and take the stroke, because that's in the Gators' home. And I'm not too bad on the price of my drinks. Jameson's or Maker's Mark. Jameson's is right now my preferred adult beverage. Jameson's Black Barrel. There's a young lady, and I'm going full admission here. I planted my foot straight in my own mouth all the way up to my knees. she was complaining that she had applied for a job at the IRS. Well, she had applied for several dozen jobs in the federal government. She's a military vet, got out after 6 years, Navy, got her college degree, and applied for government jobs. And of course, she's mad in hell because all the government job openings are suddenly being slammed in her face. You know, all the government's not hiring now, sweetheart. And she's sitting there whining and blaming, you know, thank you, Trump. Because of you, I can't find a job now, yada, 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 yada. And I made a couple of snide comments about her, you know, being chair force. And it turns out she was actually Navy. I do feel bad. I did not delete my post because I did say it, so I'm leaving it out there. I was a little snarkier than I should have been. But I mean, even after I retired, it was damned hard for me to get I couldn't get a government job. And the only one I did come close to getting was the post office. And when I found out it was 40 some miles away, I didn't really want to make that drive every day. Then she got accepted to the IRS. And the day of her interviews, they sent her an email and said, sorry, but this position no longer exists. Therefore, we are canceling your interview. And she's pretty bent out of shape about that. And, you know, I can understand, you know, looking at it from, man, I thought I had a job interview lined up with the government and now the job doesn't exist. I'm pretty bummed about that. Yeah, I can see that. But try being told, which is what, I mean, like I said, it happened to me. Sorry, you're well qualified for these positions that you've applied for. However, right now we're only hiring minorities and women. Which is what I was told. That's a cat walking across my driveway. Yeah, exactly, Neil. By the way, good morning to you. Hiring agents to audit me and my donors. Oh. Now, this next one here I got, this is just, the woman is snarky. And while I appreciate, you know, I can appreciate snarky. I sort of appreciate, this is Jennifer Rubin. No relation to Dave Rubin, as he wants to make certain people know.
What is the logical fallacy here?
Okay.
Why?
Okay. And she's been interviewed, somebody here, 92 New York. I'm assuming that's a radio station or TV station. But she's got something going on. And I really have to appreciate her snark. She's a big time liberal, but I've got to appreciate her snark.
Would ABC Disney, the mouse, who has more money than God, settle with Donald Trump?
I honestly don't know.
You know, I've asked, why would ABC? But people ask me all the time, why is the media so mamsy-pamsy? And there are two.
Now, the media mamsy pamsy. No, it's not. It just depends on who they're targeting. Who they're writing about is whether or not they're mamsy pamsy.
Two explanations. The one is they are convinced that if they would just move a little bit to the right, all those MAGA readers out there, now you'll notice the contradiction in terms, MAGA readers.
Contradiction in terms, the MAGA readers. Yeah, those of us who support Trump, none of us, we're all illiterate. None of us know how to read. So I mean, I've got to, my only problem with that is she had to point it out. Is she should have let that one slide for the best, to take it up a level. She should have just not drawn attention to it.
Readers would pick up the Washington Post and they would have more readers. What is the logical fallacy here? Yes, reader. And there is nothing that the Washington Post could possibly do that would have those people take out a subscription, but they're convinced they're in there someplace. Okay. Why would?
So, like I said, I appreciate the snark, but she should have allowed people, let that little thing come in and hit people as it hit them, and not hold up that big sign. Look what I just said. Look how snarky I just was. That's just, like I said, I can appreciate good snark, but I like it even better when you allow it to hit on its own and not break out the big neon lights, the horns, and everything else to point it out. Now, Sadiq Khan, he's the mayor of London. I usually ignore what this man says. I do try to keep up on the stuff going on in the UK to a degree. And Sadiq Khan is one of those people that I will listen to what he has to say for about 10 seconds. But this one was a little bit more reach out and smack you in the face as far as being. Let's listen to him here.
But here's the really important point of my short remarks. Yes, we celebrate our diversity, and in Islam, we are a very, very diverse religion. But there are some people.
Islam is a very, very diverse religion. Okay. You do, yeah, it is diverse in the fact that you have a lot of different people with different skin tones in it. And a lot of those people there, who are now generational members of Islam, the original generations were forced to convert or be killed. Especially those in Africa. But that was then, this is now.
There are some people who think diversity is not a strength, it is a weakness. They think diversity shouldn't be celebrated, it should be denigrated. They try and pit Muslims versus Hindus. They try and pit those from London versus those from other parts of the country. They try and pit those who are older versus those who are younger.
That really sounds a lot like the Democratic Party and the Liberal Party of the UK. Pitting all these social groups against each other so that they can keep in power. Fred again. Okay.
And as the general election approaches, they will try and make these culture wars bigger and bigger. And we've got to say no. We've got to say we're going to build bridges and we're not going to build walls. We've got to show them that Islam celebrates diversity and we celebrate our brothers and sisters, whether they're Muslims or they are non-Muslims. But here's the really important.
Muslims celebrate people whether they are Muslims or non-Muslims. Really? That's why you've got Muslims wanting to kill, and the Quran specifically says to kill all the Jews? Sadiq, I mean, if Islam had gone through a Reformation, I would almost give that to you. Well, Josh, no religion is diverse. Well, okay, no religion is diverse when it comes to its beliefs. Okay. And the reason why I paused there for a second is you've got different sects with it that may claim to be underneath the umbrella like there is in Christianity. You've got different sects that fall under the umbrella term Christianity. But some of these diverse sects, especially under modern day Christianity, and this is going to be me climbing up on my own church, my own religious values here for a moment. So please allow me to do that. Like there was a female preacher who stood up and said Jesus was gay, Jesus was trans, Jesus was a lesbian, yada, yada, yada. Just went down the whole list of different things. And she's standing there wearing the gay pride colored sash around her neck. That to me is not Christianity. And what she's preaching is not Christianity. Even though she's proclaiming it is. All I can say is, when I in my heart of hearts pray that people listening to her do not fall in her trap. But that's all I got to say about that. I'm going to climb down away from my pulpit now. You got my little bit of sermon for the day. But I don't know of. I mean, a religion is not diverse in its beliefs. At least it shouldn't be diverse in its core beliefs. But I do have a problem with a religion that teaches that you need to kill people because of their core beliefs. And I know Sadiq can't say that if he wants to stay, but then as London is becoming more and more under Muslim control, by mere population numbers. Uh, I could see him actually getting away with saying that sometime in the future. But Sadiq is there was just another woman. There was a woman arrested. I just saw the video this morning and it was dated yesterday, I believe, in uh, the UK. She was standing across the road by herself, holding up a sign, and as words on it to the effect, "Hey, come before going in there, please come and talk to me." And the police came over and arrested her, saying she was protesting and being charged with violating their laws for protesting outside of an abortion clinic. This is one old lady standing there holding a sign across the street, not saying anything, just standing there holding a sign. Saying that she'd like to, if you had she wanted to talk to anybody she's willing to talk to anybody that wanted to come talk to her. We as Americans, and again, if Trump were to come out saying that he wanted to make protesting illegal, I'd be telling he's wrong. I don't care who you are, protesting in the United States is an American right, protected under our First Amendment. Now, I will say that there are things protesting can't do. Protesting can't block the streets. It can't interfere with the business. You can't stop a business from getting customers in and out, getting shipments in and out. But you can stand out front with your signs and chant all day long. You want to take over the streets of a town with your protest? You better have the required paperwork and approvals in order done in advance to where the roads can be closed by the local government, but not just because you got bodies. There is another video going around again in the UK. Some vegans blocking the meat aisle, just sitting there on the floor, not allowing people to go down the meat aisle. And this old man with his trolley, excuse me, he's trying to get through. And this woman she's standing and she's hip checking his trolley every time he tries to go through. And store management is just standing there looking at her. As a member of the store management, even though he's kind of a bit on the squirrely looking side, he at least should have pushed her out of the way using minimal force, of course, not body slammer, but to, allow his other patrons to come through. But at that point, he should have called the police and had all those protesters removed or arrested. Because, like I said, you've got, protesting on private property is totally different here in the United States. And to me, it makes sense, no matter where you live, protesting on privately owned property, subject to trespass laws. If you're not wanted there, then you get told to leave or asked to leave, then you got to go or you go to jail one way or another. And if you're going to stand there and stop my business from making money, I'm going to ask you to leave, and then I'm going to call the cops and have you arrested. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. But again, that's just me. Neil, it's not a large number of those on the left, and the further to the left you go, the more delusional they become. Last night's Monkey's stream, I watched it this morning while doing other things, and he spent 2 hours on a 12-minute video of one of those 50-51 protests in Colorado. Remember, I talked about that last a week or so ago, how they were planning the 50-51 protests. Protests in all 50 states, preferably at the state capitals. And they want to keep them going as long as possible, protesting Trump. I get surprised at how, and you don't see the people on the right protesting very often. And of course, we all know the last major protest by the right was 4 years ago, January 6th, or a number of idiots broke some protocols. These are plans, and they're, we all know it. We also know that no cops were killed that day. Yes, there were cops who were accosted. No cops were killed that day. 5 cops did die, mostly by suicide afterwards, in several days following. Boy, that cat is just loving my driveway. But the media support that these 50-51ers are getting, and one of the protest stands that somebody had set up there was the radical communist or revolutionary communists. And Monkey brought up a good point. What if that said the revolutionary socialists or revolutionary Nazis? Well, hell, they'd been all arrested. They'd been beat down. Or revolutionary GOP, revolutionary conservatives. But being revolutionary socialists, it's like, okay, no problem, no big deal. Josh, you're right. We do have it way too good here in the United States. In the fact that that the smaller the perceived slight is, the bigger it gets blown out of proportion. And I'm referring to like microaggressions. Oh, the way he looked at me for that 1/10 of a second, that was a microaggression. Remember when those were all the rage bait? Everybody talking about how they were being microaggressed. That was part of the CRT and DEI training. For large numbers of people in the United States, you're right. They have it way too good to where they don't worry about where their next meal is coming from, where their next mortgage check money is coming from, or rent check, how they're going to pay that, how they're going to pay that electric bill, water bill. No, they don't worry about all that. And they've got money to blow otherwise. They got time to blow otherwise. And the number of federal employees that are out there marching on these protests, teachers out there marching at these protests, and proudly admit they're teachers or that they're federal employees. And they're walking around carrying signs, F Trump. You've got the right to say what you want to say. And you've got that free speech. But when you stand out there and you say, yeah, I'm a teacher at such and such a school, and I'm telling you right now, F Trump, F this, F that. And if I should happen to come to my school, we'll take care of them. They won't be coming into our school. They won't be taking our students. At that point, you should become a former teacher at that school. You should become a former federal worker. But again, that's just me and my opinion. Oh, I did forget to bring up about yesterday's stream. It did get a worldwide strike on YouTube. I would have had to cut out way too much to put it back up on YouTube. So, of course, it's sitting over there at Rumble. Like I said, it probably would end up. So, and I use over there as I get over here. So I'm up in the double digits now over there at Rumble. But anyhow, that's about all I got for today. Tomorrow's fun day. And we'll be back tomorrow. Ramen, talking movies, food, books, and anything else just happens to come across our way. So, everyone, try to have a good day. Enjoy yourselves. Be with the ones you want to be with. Love the ones you're with. And have a good one.